welcome to LeisureCast. I did that wrong, but that's okay. I'm Brian here with Josh Olswich. Hey, Josh.
Mr. Brian, it is officially 2023.
It's 2023. It's January 6th, a day of infamy.
Day that will live down in infamy.
Actually, I was looking at my phone earlier today, and Apple gives you these reminders of your past photos, and there was the Capitol insurgency thing as a top article, and the photo above it was my wife in front of the White House, and I was like, did they do this on purpose? But anyway, AI or not, smartphones and notifications.
No such thing as coincidences.
No such thing. That's not the point of this podcast. We're not going to make any political statements, to my knowledge, today.
Going into the 12th vote, by the way.
We are going to make some political statements.
That's all I have to say. That's all. I just that's crazy.
Yeah, you'd think there'd be a revolt by now of just saying all right, dude, you had your shot.
I just think they just keep doing this for the next 2 years until the next round of elections. Right? That'd be great.
I've been so gloriously ignorant of politics that I didn't even know what was going on until people were just laughing at how many votes there'd been about it. Crypto markets still exist in 2023. The year ended in a limp. We limped into the new year with crypto. Nothing new in terms of being down more or anything, but that old yearly candle was a little rough, I guess. Historically, Josh, you and I spend time around now doing some prediction type stuff, talking a little bit about year in review. I think everybody kind of knows what happened in review, but we can skip and talk a bit about what we expect from a price action perspective, and then we'll talk about some potential narratives on the year. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, how much worse can it get, right? That's the thing. How much more correlated?
I feel like that's most people's.
How much worse can it get?
That's most people's tagline for 2023, which seems ominous to me. It's like, how much worse can it get? Whoa, let us show.
I mean, what? Honestly, regulations, sure, bring it. What else? Fed raising rates, they're not going to go much above 5. What else? DCG blowing up, maybe.
What is
Binance blowing up? I don't know. What's worse than already happened, right? Statistically speaking, how many more businesses can blow up that haven't blown up already?
Yeah, well, certainly a lot have blown up. They're still kind of kicked off the year with some, I don't know if it's news, but news of sorts, with DCG drama continuing, Genesis DCG, GBTC and ETH drama, fighting between Barry and the Winklevi over Gemini Earn. Seems like the big shoe to drop for 2023 would certainly be DCG related. There's also a lot of rumors about hedge funds, or one particular large hedge fund potentially liquidating, being investigated. So probably going to see more contagion as an outcome, but I don't know that that'll translate super directly to price action. That'll be what we want to see in that.
Contagion, outflows. I mean, I feel like
is it something going to cause? Is something going to cause new sell off? I don't know if he'll do that.
Right, but I'm thinking who's left who hasn't gotten out that will be getting out. I don't know. If you're still here after 2022, us and most people listening, you ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, I think
what's gonna happen.
I think positional long-term hedge funds could get still provide some selling pressure. So long only spot funds that are trying to provide crypto exposure, if they get enough redemptions or something like that, and they have
to that's going to keep happening, I think, throughout Q1. Any hedge fund redemptions, I'd imagine any altcoin low cap type stuff still being liquidated or in the process of being liquidated if that's the desire, for that
Yeah.
specific fund.
Should we go ahead and ask, like, do you have any interest in anything outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum?
As in price wise, or like the
Like,
thing
just
that everybody needs to
long-term
be.
hold wise, like, something
Oh,
that
like,
you
like a specific trade.
yeah.
You had the ETH chart up there. I really like what I'm focused on, like in the next couple weeks, is this Adam and Eve possibility on BTC and ETH. If BTC can get above 18, if ETH can get above 14, if those things can happen, I like that trade for Q1. But ultimately, it's all about like the second half of the year. It's all about rates getting a ceiling finally. Some forward guidance on bringing rates down.
The pace of rates is the key there, in my opinion.
Yeah, because like we're just PvP trading, waiting until risk comes back before like anything really can happen. I mean, let's be real here.
Yeah, until you get serious momentum. You talk about like multiples on your underlying, but if you talk about where's the bottom, how should I get in, when should I get in? Chris Bernisk has been pretty good on this, and both at the top and what he's calling potentially the bottom. He's licking his chops. I don't know if you've paid attention to his tweets on all of this.
I haven't. Enlighten me.
Well, he was very cautious, not at the end of the bull market, but as 2021 was really getting overextended, he was doing a pretty good job of just kind of providing cautionary tales of euphoria and whatnot. And then he started buying maybe below 25K, 20K, but he's been really, really licking his chops lately, talking about how he thinks that we're seeing price and news diverge. So when you have news that's bad and price is not being affected, or legacy markets were getting hit a bit at the end of the year and crypto was doing nothing. And it's just a worthy follow, I think, for keeping an eye on someone who was bearish relative for the most part at the right time and has been bullish recently, to keep an eye on that.
Well, think about sentiment. Think about sentiment, even like
it's so bad. My sentiment is bad. I'm not like hungry to be in the market. What about you?
Not even listeners, not personally like your sentiment, but like external sentiment that you're seeing like into crypto. Like, I don't know if it's ever been this bad. Maybe I'm just like got insane recency bias, but
yeah, I think it's been this bad before. I think
I was looking at this week. I was looking at the 2014 like post Gox media, and it's almost like you could have played it today and it would have been the same stuff. Like people were saying the same things. Like this stuff's going to double digits. This stuff's for drug dealers and criminals. It needs to be regulated. Like the same stuff, exactly, almost word for word. Like you'd have no idea. You just replace like Mt. Gox with FTX. Or whatever.
And that happened in 2014 and 2015. It happened in 2019. It's happening now.
Right. I'm not saying the recovery is going to be the same or the drawdown is going to be the same. I'm just saying like the sentiment is very similar.
I have been impressed with that, where people are basically just like, oh, crypto's dead. At the same time, within the crypto ecosystem, there's this expectation that the next cycle will exist and it'll be just as glorious as the last. That part I'm a little skeptical about. Like, for instance, I think we could go back to all-time highs and then have another bear market. Like, and I don't think a lot of people give that any credit. What could you?
Well, I think we could double and people would still be bearish. Like we could go from 15 to 30 on BTC and people wouldn't even think about it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm just thinking, even if we talk about the next cycle, would it be possible for the next cycle to be really not get above the levels of the previous cycle? And I think that's actually possible. So I think of this old NASDAQ chart. So the 2000.
Are you talking about price or market cap, or does it not matter?
Let's just go with price for majors.
Okay.
So the 2000 bubble, the NASDAQ went big. This is QQQ, so it was just starting. But then if you just picture this as NDX, I'll go to NDX. Huge bubble in 2000, and then for the financial crisis, 2007, 2008, it wasn't even back to previous all-time highs, but this was another like there was a whole cycle in this where the Nasdaq was just unimpressive. And then there was another session, and then it didn't hit all-time highs until 2015, 2016. So it took 15 years to recover that. Now, crypto moves faster than regular cycles, but the point I'm trying to bring up is I think you could have a market cycle where the top does not even represent the old top. And in our
kind of like 2019, right? Where we had that like crazy cycle, that like plus token scam.
Yeah, this right here, 14K.
Yeah.
People don't think of that as if it was a market cycle, but it really was in a mini one. But Bitcoin went all the way back to 14K before settling, dying, and then mooning.
What a crazy chart.
It is a crazy chart. Like the COVID dip that's just like a massacre to both sides, right? Like
to think like we lived through 2018 and that like crazy fast drawdown, and then we had like the same, so not exceedingly greater magnitude drawdown like quicker during COVID, and then we like did what we did post COVID. I don't know, the whole thing is just kind of insane. So yeah, like I'm like, yeah, like we said, we could 2x and people would be like, oh, whatever, you know, I'll take 2x all day.
Well, so this could be a bear market bounce.
Sure.
For sure. What I'm saying is we could have a mini bull market that like never goes beyond this. You know, you get to like 40K and then you do it again. Like
well, that's why I think 30 is going to have a lot of resistance. 30, 35, whatever that is. Some would say 33, because of the where that level like held for so long. Yeah. You know, at 33. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
We're even working on a weekly falling wedge. That's almost done. Somebody made a good point a few minutes ago, though. They said BCO, I think, in the chat. Crypto has never been this big, so the fallout negative sentiment has never been this big. That's true, too. You know, something else we also have to keep in mind is the market cap size. That drawdown has been dramatic, you know. But at the same time, Amazon has lost $1 trillion. So, like, I don't feel bad at all. Like, Amazon lost $1 trillion, you know. What are we? We're nothing compared to that.
Yeah. Yep. No, I don't disagree. Market caps just got so high when, especially like total market cap, as more tokens exist, they all go to the moon. Bitcoin was being rehypothecated the whole time. So even if Bitcoin didn't go to these enormous highs, the ecosystem as a whole, a ton of vapor wealth was created and only a few took it out, which we've seen as everyone's gone broke.
Right. That's why maximalism exists.
It is. No,
that's it right there. You know, you can have your fun with your unregistered securities and make money and do whatever. But at the end of the day, that is not what people should be holding through multiple cycles. I mean, that's just based on.
That said, the one unregistered security, according to some,
your words, not mine.
According to some, that looks like it's still got a lot of air in the balloon is ETH and ETH BTC, which is we've talked for years at this point about this pattern or this level, this 0.075, 0.08, and the potential for a move to 0.1 and 0.14. This thing just keeps getting more intense, more compression at the ceiling. I mean, ETH on a relative basis continues to look fantastic. What do you think about this trade in 2023?
Yeah, I don't think anything's changed. I think it looks even better against other altcoins. Like, how is ETH not going to outperform any other layer one, any other DeFi product? Like,
Yeah, unless something's so small that it just has tremendous upside because it can do multiples before it is visible. But for the most part, I agree. Like ETH is probably the most attractive thing to hold in the ecosystem.
based on the trade setup, I'd agree. Based on the fundamentals and potential regulatory issues that people are mentioning,
Yeah.
I think ETH could see some interesting regulatory things headed its way, specifically like to weaken the DeFi ecosystem by causing KYC AML requirements or something, right? But based on the issuance, the emissions, whatever, however you want to think about that for ETH, it shouldn't not do well. This is the whole part of the fundamentals is let's lock up your ETH. Let's bring emissions to zero effectively or negative, and then see what happens.
ETH is much closer to its 200-week moving average. I had drawn that falling wedge on this. I added it to Bitcoin per your comment, but I'd drawn a really broad one on this. But there's a lot of confluence around 1300, 1350. I wonder if there's some cloud confluence there as well. But there is.
So at least on the daily there is.
Yeah, weekly Tinkin, daily cloud entry type stuff.
See, I'm looking at that since like November, that Adam and Eve type. You could even say like ascending triangle. Now that's since June, but I'm talking about like
just from here.
Yeah. You could say ascending triangle. You could say Adam and Eve. You could say a bigger like triangle since June, July. None of it is screaming bullish yet, but if we can get above 14, I like. I think
where I'm going on any cloud. I want to hit that intersection.
Well, I think that would be a fair like ETH BTC 33K equivalent would be ETH around 2,500.
I would like that.
Sense. I just don't know. The problem with the whole ETH narrative and the disinflation or whatever is like what activity in the ETH ecosystem would people be interested in participating in if ETH just has the best trade,
Yeah. This is the deflationary argument, which we've talked about a bunch, right? The people who don't like deflation or disinflation or gold or the pro-inflationists of the world, they talk about how it reduces economic productivity because people don't have to put their money to work. They just hoard it. And in ETH's circumstance, the desire to hoard ETH rather than utilize it and spend it and build something in the ecosystem with it, when the value accrual is not on the apps, it is on the network.
Not on utility, but
on hodling.
On interest, basically.
Yeah, it can create a weird dynamic where there's a bad incentive alignment for using the network, and therefore weakens the network because it's disincentivized to be used, which I would actually argue Bitcoin has been struggling from this in a delayed fashion, but been struggling from this for relatively the same reasons. The hodl mentality is like, well, why would you build on Bitcoin? Why would you do anything with your Bitcoin? Why would you burn your Bitcoin to spend it in some capacity? Just hold it. That's all you need to do is just hold it.
Yeah, I think the multi-cycle people like myself are happy to spend because of appreciation, whatever, even regardless of like tax implications. Not that I wouldn't pay taxes, because I do, but I'm just saying like that's also a big concern for a lot of people who are just trying to use it as a utility. It's like the thought of calculating taxes for some Lightning transaction, not something anybody wants to do. So that actually helps the hodl people, because they're like, yeah, like why bother? Why bother spending this if we have to calculate taxes on every single transaction? We don't have a de minimis for anything, right? So that doesn't help us either for the utility side of things.
Whereas my opinion would be, for strength, Bitcoin needs to be fast enough to utilize and store.
Sure. In my opinion, it is fast enough to use, specifically with Lightning. I mean, that's crazy fast.
With Lightning it is, but Lightning's not used enough to matter.
Yeah, I think in the United States it's not, but it's seeing growth in emerging markets, let's say, frontier markets.
Relative to people who transact on Ethereum, it's not used very much.
Sure, but look at the utility on Ethereum. Is it for buying groceries, or is it to YOLO on some JPEG? Yeah, so
Listen, buying
it's a different
JPEG,
animal.
buying JPEGs is
Not
just
that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm
buying
just like, let's be honest here, right?
buying JPEGs is just the first lap of spending utility. Future laps, you buy all the other things.
Right, like apples and
Yeah,
meat or Soylent, whatever you ETH heads like to eat. I don't know.
I think buying your basic necessities of life is like one of the last things you buy as money becomes its most useful. I think the next stage would be like luxury goods or token gated things, or like things
Yeah,
that have some extra level of barrier
but for
to
people
them.
whose identity is like digital assets, like me, right? Like I want to live in that world. I want to transact in that world. I don't want anything to do with banks. I don't want anything to do with fiat. I just want to do my thing.
Yeah, so you're saying
Using
you could unbank yourself and live on Ethereum.
whatever it is. Like I want to be able to do that, but I can't. Right? I'm still tethered to this tax implication. I'm tethered to no one being able to accept digital assets because they think it's difficult or it's cumbersome or whatever, right?
I think these problems are going to be solved.
I hope so. It should be easy. It should be just no brainer, right? I want to give you money in any form. You take it. End of story. But we're not there yet.
Yeah, we'll get there.
But I agree. We need that utility in ETH and Bitcoin, whatever it is, to actually like go anywhere. We can't just be speculating on this forever and expect anything to happen.
I saw a tweet thread before Christmas, I think, where somebody was essentially trying to think about what are the technologies that were the most hyped and then delivered the least in history, and they were proposing crypto as being pretty high on the list so far. And for me, I think VR is one where it's had that similar type of thing where it's so hyped about how much VR is going to change everything. And then it's like, well, when? Are people going to walk around in their Oculus goggles?
No.
Yeah.
But I can see, here's what I can see, like walking around or like being at home in your goggles and having like a robot AI walk around for you and like having some sort of connection visually to that. That's like lifetimes away probably, but
I think AR has the potential to be really big.
Yeah, we've talked about AR a lot. I love AR. AR is great.
Yeah,
it's just
like your glasses could have a screen on them. You can get context for your real world in front of your eyeballs or whatever else. I think that stuff could work really well, but full on virtual reality, I don't really understand.
I'd love to see AR for live sporting events. Probably exists in some form already, but
but those things seem very, very possible. You're at a live sporting event, and then you get the glory of the broadcast at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
A broadcast is so much better than a live event from seeing the action up
I
close.
wasn't going to say that, but I was thinking that because a lot of people are like, "Oh no, I love going to the game." It's like you don't.
No, but I want to be able to like do this and watch the replay of what I just saw in real life, and I want the zoomed in angle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
AR. The coin wise, like, what is there to be anything to be excited about other than ETH BTC? I keep seeing this GOX stuff come up over and over again. Maybe I'm just desensitized to it. I just don't even care. Like, it's 160,000 coins. It's in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing.
Is that how many does Sailor own? About the same amount, right?
He owns. Let me pull up BTC treasuries and take a look. He owns, so he owns 132,000.
Yeah. So
Gox.
if Gox and Sailor both got liquidated, that'd be one of the greatest distribution of coins of all time. It might be bearish, but it would also be a great distribution, a decentralization of coin holdings,
Well, Block 1 of EOS
which is
fame
EOS.
still potentially owns 164,000 BTC.
All right.
The biggest one is Grayscale. They own 635,000
Ooh,
BTC.
that's a lot.
Right.
That's a lot of Bitcoin. I didn't realize it was that much of a black hole.
It is a massive. Like that's orders of magnitude bigger than Gox.
Wait.
So
640 over 21 million. Take it, and then take out lost coins.
yeah,
it's probably going on 5% of the total supply.
They have it at 3%, but yeah, I could see it as big as 5 based on lost coins. Yeah.
Right.
Not great.
Pretty incredible.
So to see that get liquidated entirely would be more problematic than Gox, for sure.
Yeah. Are you surprised that Doge isn't a penny yet? I am.
No, because people, I mean, look at that bonk garbage that got listed on Solana or whatever. Mango. I don't even follow that stuff anymore, but I don't know. If you're probably mining Doge at a huge gain right now still.
I need to see if I got the bonk airdrop. I haven't checked.
Oh, it was an airdrop. I didn't even know. I can pull up the Doge mining profitability, but my guess is you're still making a ton of money mining Doge because it's still at, what is that, 7 cents? It's insane.
Yes, 7.2 cents.
But as far as like what other liquidations, all of the funds for the most part already were liquidated like months ago, right? Like that was part of the rehypothecation. So I'd be much more concerned about alts, like I said in the open, than the majors, because like FTX had no BTC, right? So like, that's good news as far as I'm concerned. Now I don't know if they're going to distribute all these assets to people from Celsius and from Voyager or whoever else who's liquidating in cash or in kind. My guess is cash, so we may see some more pressures downward. But
yeah, my comfort level is much higher in Bitcoin and ETH, and that's where my exposure is. I actually, in disclosure, I own pretty much ETH and
you own 10% of ETH.
I own 10% of ETH, and I own GBTC. That GBTC is my only Bitcoin exposure, so I'm YOLOing that trade. But nevertheless. The Dixie, the old dollar. Huge up day yesterday. Huge down day today. Down over 1% today. The weekly candle is a total junk whip. It's right back to the longer term support around 103. If it loses this, I think we could go all the way down to like 100. If we do that, crypto and stocks and whatever else should respond quite well. Are you bullish or bearish the Dixie in 2023?
Well, that's the $1 billion question.
$1 trillion, probably.
What will it take for all these macro people to get bearish on the DXY? Because you listen to every single person. I've only heard one who's actually said like I'm bearish on DXY. The macro people, they're super bullish oil, they're super bullish DXY, which that's been the trade. Like I get it, I understand, it makes sense. But isn't the components of the DXY, those countries are raising rates or should be raising more than we will be raising, right? So wouldn't there be DXY weakness?
I am bearish Dixie,
as am I,
and I'm bullish commodities, which I would include. I would actually include gold and oil and Bitcoin and ETH. I think rates could still go up, but I think that we're gonna normalize, find a find a sweet spot for rates. The market is not saying rates have to be low. They have to be zero. The market, I think, has been saying we can't do anything because the rates are changing so fast. And if we've pushed into a mild recession of some sort, it gives them the ability to take their foot off the gas for rate increases or to set a schedule for rate increases. In which case, I think if Europe and other Dixie affected currencies are playing catch up still, then to your point, it should be bearish for the DXY.
Yeah, I think the top is in for the DXY for 2023.
In the chat, YX is what I'll call you. Also bearish because of petrol, yuan, petrol, dollar. There's a bunch of world currency issues with oil, where talking about paying for oil in renminbi and whatever, like alternative currencies, gold-backed currencies, things like that. Essentially getting Russia, China, and other world powers that are not our friendliest neighbors denominating for oil and other currencies, which they're saying could be bearish for the dollar. That's beyond my pay grade, but also out there as an argument.
That's kind of like us losing the global reserve currency status. Slowly,
yeah. Right. Yeah. It's not like a switch that you flip. It's just you go from super dominant to less dominant to less dominant to oopsies, we're not dominant.
Yeah.
I'm reading.
But trend-wise, that thing looks like an Eiffel Tower, the DXY. It looks like it's going to be headed through the weekly cloud throughout 2024.
All the way back to 90. That's full crypto market cycle right there.
I mean, we've talked about that.
We've talked about it a lot.
If we can get sub 100, that's a win. If we can go from 100 to 90, if we can go to 100 to 90 during the Bitcoin halving, like we're hitting 100K easy, in my opinion, on BTC.
So that would be, it's the vertical line is very, very close from a spacing perspective to previous market beginnings as well.
Did you just GAN fan me?
Not intentionally.
Any GAN fan enjoyers in chat?
Is that what they're based on?
No, it's just some random indicator that uses like time, I think. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I'm just using these vertical lines for when I'm using past market cycles and just putting them on this chart for when they really started, when they kicked off, or when bottoms were set, things like that. And yeah, it would line up. We've talked about it a lot, even though the past couple months, while the Dixie's been getting pummeled, crypto, it wasn't always easy for crypto, but you could look at it as roughly a bottom.
Well, what's interesting is that Dixie declined, whatever that is, 20%. I don't know.
And we didn't do anything.
We didn't do anything, right? So if anything, there's some pent up like bullish divergence to play out on the crypto side of things relative to the.
I've been looking at this as probably some kind of Chopsville, but what you just said was more like straight Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we're going to get
the lumber trade
2023 all the way down, but I would love to see just a slow grind lower. Like it doesn't need to be fast at all. Like we still got 200 days to halving, something like that. It's got to be more than, it's got to be closer to 400, but there's no rush here. We're fine. Yeah. Like let the regulations happen, let people do their outflows and their redemptions, and let people sour on crypto like they have every cycle. Let people say that retail's not going to come back and Main Street, Wall Street's never going to come back, right? And then every cycle they'll be here like clockwork, like they always have been, when it starts outperforming the indices, and they're like, oh, what is this thing? Interesting. My bonus is based on how much I can outperform the index. Okay, I'll check out this crypto stuff.
Yeah,
they had some regulations. Gary Gensler came in and cleaned up the street.
Would you bet on gold here based on this chart?
I agree that it's more bullish than it has been, but like I don't see anything specifically other than like some crazy multi-year cup and handle. I don't know. There's like no pattern there. There's nothing, right?
Oh, I think it's pretty patterny.
What is since 2020? What is that pattern?
I don't know about that, but
Like
like
some megaphone thing?
I think this is pretty
Descending.
much a perfect cup and handle. This reminds me of
What does
the.
Bulkowski? What does Bulkowski say about
I think it
multi-year cup and handles?
problem is it was a
Multi-decade.
perfect cup and handle
It's
in April
perfect.
2020. Perfect. In April 2022 when it got clobbered.
Yeah.
But it's just a longer handle now, Josh.
Well, last year we heard from the macro people that central banks have never bought this much gold, yet gold went down, whatever percentage that is, every week. Like the most it's ever gone down in that amount of weeks ever,
Well, this chart
So
reminds
like
me.
who's buying here, or is it just like correcting to where it should have been? I don't know.
My old perfect cup and handle chart was the USD relative to the Turkish lira before the Turkish lira had hyperinflation. Now you cannot see it on the chart because it was so long ago because of that hyperinflation.
What does
This
that measure with fibs? Where does that measure?
let's
From
try.
the peak to the nadir.
Where are they? I haven't done this in a long time.
This is you're in a bear market. You can't even find the fib retracement tool.
The just going one for one would put it at like 2,800.
Okay. Here's another question. Previously, the narrative was Bitcoin was getting a lot of the gold money because it was outperforming gold. If the gold starts outperforming Bitcoin, does that narrative of like flows take over?
I think Bitcoin would catch up and bypass gold significantly.
You would hope. And I wouldn't think that people would be, dropping BTC for gold.
Yeah.
But
I'm just saying I don't mind this chart and it gives me positivity for crypto more than I say, okay, well, I'm going to take this opportunity to buy gold.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'll take the reflexive trade on gold to crypto,
this is
even
just
if I don't.
It's just inverse DXY, right?
Pretty much.
So yeah, if anything, again, like the crypto needs to catch up, and it just hasn't, right? Because of FTX. Arguably, if FTX never happened, if it didn't explode when it did, we would be doing much better on the crypto side of things. But that's like obvious. Another thing I was looking at this week was all of the ETH protocol upgrades historically between like 70 and 80 days have seen like pretty decent price appreciation. This recent hard fork since September has not seen that at all. Obviously FTX blew up in the middle of that, but if you average out all of the price performances of all the hard forks that like actually did something, then you'd expect like a plus 50% performance post hard fork. So
well,
maybe it won't happen, or maybe ETH just has some catching up to do,
I think if we go back to sentiment a bit, everyone I know in real life is just looking at the economy like, oh, there's a recession coming. And I'm like, we're in it, man. We're in it. It's almost over if everyone thinks it. Like the mild asset, I mean, not mild, meme stocks, all the things retail was in, full bear market, clobbered, zero. Bankruptcies, failings, minus 99% SPACs. All the pain was there. It's just the real income producing assets are not as punished because they are actual good inflation hedges. But this inflationary recession, stagflation type of thing, I think we've priced in quite a lot. And I think 2023 is going to be a year of chop where people are expecting a lot of downside. I think people are going to try to bias themselves for downside and we're going to get a lot of chop.
I don't know if you saw, but your darling BBBY filing for bankruptcy. Party City also filing for bankruptcy.
Oh, dude, I was wondering about that with Party City because my greatest shock with BBBY was the fact that Party City outlived it. but they're dying together.
What a chart! Oof. What a chart.
Yeah, for people in the chat,
BBBY, to interrupt you, is the greatest example of a descending broadening wedge from 2018 to 2020 that I've ever seen.
Yes.
It is a textbook descending broadening wedge.
I traded these swings. I might say for myself, gloriously. Like some of my best trades of my legacy asset trading life were just YOLOing the crap out of that wedge. And I caught several of those bounces and did very well with BBBY. When it became a meme stock, I stopped. Yeah, and it's just gotten super punished. They had a huge cash reserve. They had like $1 billion in cash, and their market cap was like 800 million. That's why I liked it back in the day.
Yeah,
but they burned all of it. So that's what happens.
So they look to be down bad, as the kids say.
You're going to see some mall and strip mall real estate go for sale in this liquidation of their bankruptcy.
Yeah, back in my hometown, one of the biggest like mall areas, old school like 80s 90s mall, is being turned into a like residential area, which I think is a great idea, like for housing.
It's been a really common trend in real estate, is turning in malls, indoor malls, strip centers, different things than in places where they're just not working anymore, into condos, retail, stuff like that, or condos and residential.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's
anything else? Any predictions? How deflationary do you think ETH goes this year?
I personally think I think
people are still adding to ETH validators, so there's still that supply soak element, regardless of like a zero issuance.
Yeah, I think in a market turn, the supply shock will hit ETH in a very big way, because you'll see more activity to burn more, even though it's burning it right now. Like the supply shock already exists, but there's less attention in the market. And I think it's gonna. I'm so bullish ETH. I can't even express it. And if I'm wrong, I'm gonna get completely freaking wrecked.
I was gonna say, I can't wait to watch that clip in a couple months when it's like at 500 or less.
Yeah. To be fair, I'm more bullish ETH BTC than I am against the dollar, because I don't have great predictions. Like I said, I think 2023 might be a lot of chop, but I think ETH BTC has a lot of potential still.
Yeah, the window for ETH BTC is pre-Bitcoin having pre-Shanghai. Yeah. Even though Shanghai may not be super bearish on balance, like I think against ETH BTC, you're going to see that play out.
Yep. 0.14.
I think we'll do just enough to attempt a flipping of Bitcoin. And, like we've talked about this, where the meth heads are going to like say they've won, they've conquered the world, and then like just
it's over,
fall back down.
Yeah. 0.14 and then 0.04.
Yeah, they're gonna have
that would be actually really funny.
They're gonna have a day or two to like rest on their laurels and celebrate and think they won, and then
Here's what I'll say, Josh.
If it goes to could you imagine the headlines?
If ETH goes to 0.14, I'll sell almost every ETH I've got. I'll only keep enough for like transacting purposes, but I'll sell everything I got from an investment perspective.
But it's like buying early internet. Why would you sell your ETH?
That's a good point. Maybe I won't. I'm trying to commit, but I want long-term capital gains this time, though. So I'm an ETH accumulator right now.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean that chart looks good. You can't be bearish on that chart. You just can't be. Looks very good. Maybe you could argue diamond top, maybe, but I still think that chart looks very good.
All right, Bitcoin. I asked Cred this on Monday. Bitcoin, low point and high point of the year, and which one comes first?
Low point or high point of the year? I think low point comes first. I still think the high point is somewhere around 30. I think the low point might be 12 to 15, but it won't be more than a couple days. I think we wick there if we get there. I don't think we like stay there.
Ours are very similar. I think the yearly range could be the low as in if we don't have massive GBTC type issues. But if we get a liquidation event, I think 12 is the number. And I think 24, 25, the 200 week tap from the underside is the high of the year. I'm not as bullish on the upside.
All right. Well, if you fib out that, I should probably do this.
Fib what?
If we fib out the falling wedge, we get
The whole
33K. I don't make this stuff up, okay? It's just a number that has been memed into the tomes of history. If you take the falling wedge from the 25K top,
just from here.
Yeah, there. From there to the current low, that's around 33.
Yeah. Okay.
That's my if we can finish the year around 30, I think that's more than we'd be happy with that for sure.
Yeah, I think reclaiming the 200 week in 2023 would be an amazing feat. I think if Bitcoin is 25K or more, then you could have a nice 2024. I think ETH would be over 3K in that environment at least.
We just need the narrative to turn around a little bit, That's all. We need some more people in handcuffs. We need some, some purple locks, whatever it takes to get people.
Just not our friends.
to get people back on our side a little bit here, That's all.
All right. We'll leave it there. Thanks everybody for joining us. It has been a pleasure. We'll catch you next time. Be sure to like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Bye-bye.
Monuments crumble in the blink of an eye. The easy river has just run dry. In a house of cards, I feel the breeze wound so tight I can barely breathe. Oh, the chains, oh,